Charles Bacarisse is Vice President for Major Gifts in the Houston Baptist University Office of Advancement. He has a unique career and background, and we welcome today Charles Bacarisse.
Thanks, Jerry. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Now, Bacarisse, what is that name?
It's French, great-grandfather. Yeah, came from France to Cuba, where he married a woman, Maria Fernandez, and then they went to New Orleans and then to Houston. So I'm a native Houstonian, grew up here, and outside of several years in D.C., I've been in Texas most of my life.
Now, your background, you have some political involvement.
I do. I had the opportunity right out of college to go to work for President Ronald Reagan on his White House staff in the Office of Public Liaison. And we managed his Saturday radio addresses, his speeches to the nation, and other opportunities to inject the president in local media markets around the Washington press corps. It was a lot of fun. And then in 1988, went to work for President George H.W. Bush on his campaign first, working for the Director of Communications. And then
was that our friend from South Carolina that got a brain tumor?
Well, Lee was the campaign manager, certainly was there. And then my direct boss was David Demarest, who went on to work at Stanford University in public affairs for Stanford. So I served there for about 18 months. And then one morning, the Lord laid it on my heart that I'd been up there 4 years, and it was time to come back to Texas. So I did, moved back. And then 6 months after being back and working for the local CEO of county government, I met my wife.
And were you in Texas politics?
Not really. I mean, at the county level I was. I spent 4 years working for the county judge here in Harris County, and then got elected, ran for and was elected district clerk in Harris County, and served 13 years, 4 terms. And jumped out to run for county judge in 2008, lost in the Republican primary to County Judge Ed Emmett now. And that's when this door opened to come to HBU.
Now, how did you come to HBU, Charles?
It was totally providential, I believe it. The day after my election loss in March, we got 47% of the vote. I was sitting at my kitchen table, and I was really feeling pretty down about the whole situation. The first phone call was from our dear friend Drayton McLean, who gave me a great pep speech. And then the second phone call was a friend of mine who worked here at HBU, and he said, "Hey, hotshot, I know you're not doing anything today, so why don't you get a shower and come have lunch with me?" So I did, and he had the Vice President of Advancement with him. And they said, "We know this is the first day of the rest of your life, and you probably haven't thought about what you're going to do next, but we feel like you need to come to work with us at HBU because we're on a mission." And they said, "What do you know about the university?" And I said, "Well, I'm a native Houstonian. I think I've been on the campus once in my life, and I think you're Houston's best kept secret." And they said, "That's fair." And from that point, 2 weeks later, I found myself with Dr. Sloan playing in a golf tournament, and we were sharing a cart together, and we began a conversation about coming here to the university. And he was, as you know, quite persuasive in his laying out of the vision of the university, where he wanted to take this fine institution. And then shortly after that, the trustees approved the 10 Pillars vision. And I remember being...
What year was that?
This was 2008.
Okay.
Now, this is May of 2008. And I was handed that vision and read it over a weekend. And I followed my wife around the house saying, "Listen to this, listen to this." And finally, at the end of the weekend, she said, "Okay, you clearly have drunk the Kool-Aid. You're all in. You need to go do this." And indeed, I was. That vision captured my heart and my imagination as to what this university can be, not only in the Houston region, but for the world, for the cause of Christ. So by June, I was here.
And so you've been here 9 years.
It'll be 10 years in June.
10 years in June, wow. And tell us about reasons to give to Houston Baptist University. I mean, particularly here, it seems like there is a very much philanthropic spirit in Houston.
That's true.
A lot of people asking.
That's true.
But why Houston Baptist University?
I feel like we are fortunate to be in the Houston region, which is one of the most philanthropic places in the country. So that's a plus.
Is it the #1 philanthropic city in the nation?
It has been in the past. It may be 1 or 2 now, as defined by the Association of Fundraising Professionals, the national organization.
Who would exceed it?
I think one year, perhaps New York City exceeded it, but most of the time we're 1, 2, right in there, very close. But I think when I talk to people about HBU, I say we are an intentionally Christian university. There's a lot of universities that have a religious name in them, but it's actually in the DNA of the university. If you read the bylaws of the university and the preamble to the university, it's right there. It is the Christian doctrine in its distilled form. And I said, where else can you find that? Nowhere else, I believe. And then you look at our faculty and staff, each of them so committed to their students and to the cause of Christ. And they bring that conversation organically into the subject matter that they teach. And it's a wonderful way in which they mentor and pour their own lives into those of our students. So I say it's a place like no other. And I think that it's worthy of someone's contribution, their time, their energy, and their treasure to help this university continue to grow.
Now, what projects are you working on right now to raise money for?
Well, as you know, Jerry, you've been a big part of our work and continue to be a great partner to us and with us. Thank you for that. We are in a comprehensive capital campaign. We are raising $136 million over several years. Right now, we're at about $83 million in funds raised. And it's got several different areas. One of them that I think is very important for us is student scholarships. We need to endow more student scholarships. I think we also, in another area, need to endow more faculty positions, because that really lifts the budgetary pressure off the university. When you've got faculty positions that are endowed, they certainly take that.
And for those not familiar with the term endowed, why don't you explain that?
Sure. If someone is interested in supporting, say, a position in the business school, then they could look at endowing that position with a gift of $1 million to $1.5 million over a period of several years. We give them opportunity to pledge and pay out that gift, or they can make it all at once. And that money then is held in the university's investment pool, and the returns on that investment, that gift, then fund the faculty salary for that position. So you lift that cost, if you will, off the operational budget of the university. And it really allows a university to get a lot stronger, a lot faster. When you think about America's elite universities, most every faculty position is endowed. Mm-hmm. So it's a whole new ball game when that kind of thing begins to happen. You also know that we're working very, very actively with our Center for Law and Liberty, which is our pre-law government track. We certainly have great programmatic opportunities there with great support, but we are endeavoring to build a replica of Independence Hall on campus. And we feel like that'll be a beacon.
Now, when you say a replica, do you have the plans to build it?
We're working towards that at this point. We don't yet have the design done, but we envision a replica of the main building, which is about 20,000 square feet, mm-hmm. as you see it in Philadelphia, without the wings. And that two-story structure on the first floor is really, there are only two rooms on the first floor. The room where they debated and drafted the Constitution and approved it, and the Declaration of Independence. And then also on the other side of the foyer is a courtroom. And so you've got both sides represented there. We want to build that in replica so that school students from the region can come by who may never get to Philadelphia. And as Dr. Chris Hammonds explains, we want to show people that the American founding is for them. It's for you. It's mm-hmm. not a bunch of outdated, outmoded ideas, but the idea is brought to life when you're in the room where that document was debated and approved.
Who birthed the idea of bringing Independence Hall replica to HBU?
I think Dr. Sloan and Dr. Hammonds really mm-hmm. together came to this notion several years ago, and mm-hmm. we've been really focused on trying to raise the support to build the building now.
And how much money do we need to do that?
That project is $10 million. It's a 20,000 square foot building. We think $10 million will cover that, plus a little endowment to maintain the building. And then we're not too far into it at this point, so there's plenty of upside for people who want to get involved in this project.
And where would it be on campus?
Dr. Sloan says he has a location lined out. He hasn't shared it with us just yet,
Yeah.
but he has an idea where it will go.
It's a brilliant idea.
And then, of course, the College of Engineering is another major element of our growth and capital campaign. We plan to launch. We've hired the founding dean after about 18 months to 2 years of study. We've hired the founding dean. We plan to launch the first cohort of students in the fall of 2018, so this coming fall. It's a very aggressive timeline, and we're raising the support now. The first 3 lines of study in that college will be electrical, computer, and cyber engineering. Because we really believe that this is an area where we can be relevant immediately to the needs of not only this region, but our nation.
And what's the financial needs for the College of Engineering?
We believe that we need to raise, to start up, launch it adequately, around $5 million. And we're towards that right now. We've got plenty of work still to do, but we're able to at least raise enough money to hire the first couple of faculty members and begin advertising with admissions to find our first cohort of students. We're hoping to have 35 students in that first cohort.
Mm-hmm. What other financial needs are there?
I think as you look across the university, we've got plenty of other capital needs. I think our science building has had a very long life and has served us very well, but it's in need of a major refresh or perhaps a replacement, if you will. We also endeavor to build a new student services building. That's in our campus master plan, and so that's in there. Dr. Sloan frequently talks about our goal of constructing a new special events center, conference center, and sports arena on the freeway frontage. That's also has some philanthropic element to it. There'll be other ways to fund that, but there's a naming rights opportunity in there that would be wonderful. And then, of course, we want to continue to grow our School of Christian Thought, and that's a major part of our university, and as well as the education, nursing, psychology, and all of the humanities, and our School of Art. We have a first-class School of Fine Arts here at HBU, and that facility that they're in now has served them well. They've about outgrown it, so we may need to expand the University Academic Center to allow for an expansion of the Masters of Fine Arts program. And
that School of Fine Arts has been distinguished by all kinds of awards.
It's really amazing. And what's so strategic, I think, about the School of Fine Art is it gives us an opportunity to have an influence in an otherwise fairly dark and non-Christian world. Mm-hmm. We can speak truth into the visual arts, not only painting, sculpting, and others, but the work that Josh Sakura and Jesse Groff Olson are doing in cinema and new media. We have an amazing opportunity to be strategic in parts of our country, parts of our world that really need to hear about Christ and his redemption of our soul.
Now, Charles, let's talk about giving patterns in America, and then age demographics and the propensity to give or not to give. Older folks, that 65 and older, are very much catalysts of strong giving. But unfortunately, they're older and some of them are going on to heaven.
They are.
Is there a need to recruit new donors to HBU?
Absolutely. I think that we are, in some ways, we are here because of the greatest generation and their philanthropic heart. If you look at this university in our history, we've only conferred a little over 20,000 degrees. And, I like to explain it to people that I talk with about the university. I said, we were launched and sustained by the gifts of friends and foundations. They really had no other connection to this university other than a love for its mission. So now we're moving to that maturity stage where our oldest graduates finished in 1967. So we're beginning to talk with that group about planned giving and what that might mean for them and for the university. And then we need to think very carefully about how we try to relate to the younger alums, those that graduated in what I'd call the 90s, and certainly the 2000s. Their ideas about philanthropy are very different, and we need to understand those, I think, much more clearly.
I've read some predictions that in the next decade, and particularly in the 2020s, that charity giving in the United States is going to take a real hit because of just the generational change. Have you read any of that data?
I have, and it's scary. It's concerning, really. When you think about what's happening right now, as you well know, there's a tremendous wealth transfer that's been going on in the country, and that is going to continue for a few more years, but then we'll finish. And then the question is, there's this whole new generation that may not be affiliated. They may be the nuns. You've been studying that issue very, very closely, those who claim no religious affiliation. They claim no anchor, if you will. What motivates them? What is it that touches their heart and makes them want to take action? And then once they take action, how do they want to stay involved with that nonprofit that they give to? So we need to understand that here. And as we speak to our student body and other friends in the community, we need to be relevant to them. And I think the way we can do it is that if you come around this campus, if you come on this campus for a Center for Christianity and Business luncheon, or to hear Lee Strobel speak, or Jeremiah Johnston speak, or any of our fine theologians, or you hear an organ concert by Rhonda Furr, or anything, a program that the Center for Law and Liberty puts on, you're touched. You come away feeling different about this place, that maybe you don't get the same feeling when you visit your own college or any other college or university campus that you've been on. And then when you talk with our students and you see where their hearts are, what's on their minds. And we have kids who care about those that are abused with sex trafficking, and those that are living in poverty, and they want to reach out and be missional to those hurting in our world. That's a very different kind of student than what I remember being. And so I think that has an impact, and I think that's what I'm holding out hope in the future, that our students make a difference in the world and help people understand that it's a good idea to give to an institution like HBU.
The mission is great. I mean, if the Houston Chronicle is to be believed, last Sunday morning it reported on the front page that there's more brothels in Houston than there are Starbucks. Now, again, I don't know the veracity of that statement, but they talked about the number of brothels being run and human trafficking because of the proximity to the border. Even as great as this city is, there's tremendous need.
There is.
And someone has to give to make the gospel and the message of Christian education happen. I think I always humor myself when everybody talks all about Billy Graham and God bless Billy Graham, and that's so true. Billy is awesome. But Billy was in Longview, Texas, and he and his team had decided that they were going to disband because they did not have enough money. And imagine Longview in 1949. That must have been a very small little Longview.
Pretty quiet place.
And they just prayed in the room and said, God, if you want us to keep going, send us a sign. And we've got to have a sign that we really know you want. Well, they had no idea that R.G. Letourneau had been attending. And Letourneau said that God spoke to him, and he pulled Billy aside and gave him a very large check with a lot of zeros. And he said, young man, you are to keep preaching the gospel. Billy went from Longview to L.A., and the L.A. crusade was where
it changed.
Yeah,
Everything changed.
Randolph Hearst and San Simeon sent the telegram, Puff Graham, and overnight, Billy was known nationwide. But see, it was giving that started that.
Right.
And I have noticed that there has never been a time where God releases what he wants to do until people release what he has given them.
Right.
Because money is a test, but money is also a trust.
Right.
And we have to give back to the Lord because we don't own it.
Right.
We're just managers.
That's right.
He owns it.
Right.
And, we know that because people every day who, and look at Steve Jobs. If you've read Walter Isaacson's book,
Right.
he left $18 billion behind and never gave any money to charity.
Right.
And so everybody talks about how great Apple is, but Apple does not have the history that this university has. And Charles, when I want to get motivated about HBU, it's real easy for me. I get Don Lozier's book out, and I read those early chapters of those men who signed personal guarantees to loans for HBU. And they didn't have any,
No, right.
pretty much the Wild West in Sharpstown.
This was the prairie out here. The freeway stopped at Hillcroft.
Doris Warren told me that the Southwest Freeway didn't even go beyond Fondren.
It didn't. That's right.
And but those men had a vision.
Right.
And look around us.
Right. And, I love to hear the stories of our last living founder, Stuart Morris, right? You do too. Whenever he starts telling a story, the room gets quiet.
Yes.
And I remember a story that he's told many times about an early meeting of some of those key trustees where they couldn't make payroll here. And Stuart got on the phone, and several other people got on the phones to Houston area bankers, and they arranged, enough financing to keep the doors open for another week or so. And you have stories like that you've heard of other fine Christian institutions
Absolutely.
that have done the same thing. So thank God for those founders and for their persistence and their vision and their heart, because we do stand on their shoulders today when you look around. And then back to your other comment earlier about the state of our city in some ways. Today, Houston Baptist University sits at the crossroads of several different cultures. If you think about wanting to have an impact on world missions and people groups and
Absolutely.
so forth, we don't have to go very far
No.
outside of our gates to do that
Exactly.
here. And so God...
How many ethnicities are there?
Well, I know, for example, the Houston Independent School District, families that have students in the Houston Independent School District speak over 120 different languages at home. Okay, so right here we sit in a African, Sudanese African culture, Hispanic, Chinese, Korean, African American. I mean, there's multiple ethnicities right in this area, right in this neighborhood, that we can and do probably have an impact on. People ask me, well, do you have very many international students? And I said, yes, we have quite a few, but they just live right here. And so our opportunity, the Center for Christianity and Business has done an amazing job of reaching into the Chinese business community here. And so many of these men and women, they're very entrepreneurial and they understand business, but they want to understand this idea of integrity in business, and where does that come from, and how is that formed? And we believe that it comes from the teachings of Jesus and that are found in Scripture. And Dr. Ernest Liang has been incredibly strategic in bringing that message into the Chinese business community that then goes back over to mainland China and helps to buttress the church as it exists in that country that is so challenged.
Well, just a few weeks ago, my wife and I were in Normandy, and we literally stood at D-Day. And I think of those bunkers, and we are building a beachhead at HBU. And I just want to transition and remind everyone that's listening, watching, that a great university is here because of great giving. But we need everyone to give. And, it's not... The unique thing about giving is everyone can give. It's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice. And God may be calling you to see one of these young students of what they could be 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. Young people who can, from this place, could go all over the world. You have the opportunity to do that. You can give online at HBU.edu, and you can learn more about it. Just simply visit HBU.edu/giving, G-I-V-I-N-G, and you might want to call and ask to speak to Charles Bacarisse about that Center for Law and Liberty.
Sure.
You need a few people to give
We
a
do.
few
We do.
500,000 and 250,000s
Absolutely.
and a few millions,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
How can they get a hold of you, Charles?
It's very simple. You certainly on our website, you can email me or you can call me. My phone number is there, cell phone is there, and I'm available all the time. And I would love to talk with anyone who either wants to make a gift themselves or maybe they know someone who we ought to meet, who we can go talk to.
And just before we sign off, let's mention Sharon Saunders and
Sure.
the incredible service that she has done.
Absolutely.
And the Guild, which has been an incredible ministry of giving
Right.
and praying,
Right.
those women who pray.
And they support graduate students.
So
which,
I haven't had a chance to talk to Sharon yet. I certainly will, but just
I hope you do.
say a word about her before we close.
She was one of the first people I met when I came here 9 years ago. And I have so appreciated her experience and background here at the university many, many years. And she understands this institution and the heart of this institution, perhaps like very few others do. She also is a wonderful, she also has a wonderful understanding of people and relationships and personalities. And she has a gift of being able to put together teams that function well together. And I certainly have appreciated the way she has led our office in this time right now. It's tremendous, it really is. So she has a great love for the university and a great love for all of us.
Well, Charles, thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for stopping by and talking to us.
It's a privilege. Thank you, Jerry.